Hello and welcome to the IT Simply Jumpstart series. Today I'm going to take you through the basics of Microsoft Teams and how you can use it to connect and collaborate with your colleagues, customers, suppliers and other contacts. I'm going to walk you through the user interface and functionality so you can see Teams in action. And I hope you find this demo useful and quickly become familiar with how to use many of the great features of Microsoft Teams. When you first log into Teams, it's going to take you to this Teams tab. So looking down the left-hand side here, there's a bunch of tabs. And the Teams one is where it's going to take you. I'm going to start with the chat tab though, because that's typically where most people will start in terms of interacting with their colleagues and other contacts. So if you click on the chat tab, you'll want to start a conversation. You can do that by clicking on the new chat button up the top there. Now if you start typing, you'll find that it searches your internal directory and it'll find any of your contacts that are already other people that you work with. So you can add them in this way. You can also add other people from outside your organization. This has already found this one because we've done this one before, but you can put this in once you type it in full. It will allow you to search on external addresses as well. If you add someone external, then you'll find that they are highlighted as external with this little logo up here. Now in terms of chat, most of us will be familiar with Messenger and other chat platforms. So you can just literally send them a message. One of the other things you can do if you want to send a bit more content or have a bit more information, almost sending it like an email, is you can click on the icon down the bottom left here for Compose Box, and this gives you all of these different features up along the top here. So you can start with a title if you want to, and then carry on with some content. If you want to, you can go and do all kinds of other things. Make certain content large, give it an underline or a color, clear all formatting, you get the idea. Have a play, you'll work it out, it's all pretty straightforward. Click on send, and off you go. Typically, we use the chat feature quite a lot for just quick questions. Sometimes someone's on the phone, we need a quick answer out of them. That's a nice, easy way of them keeping things moving. But sometimes you'll be in a chat conversation and you realize that actually it's going to be a lot quicker to talk about it rather than a quick to and fro. So you can do that. You can add audio by simply clicking on this bottom button up the top right here. You can also go straight into video if you want to by clicking on the video icon here. You can also share your screen, and you can do that without connecting any of the audio and video as well. When you click on the share screen, it's going to give you this desktop. I've got a couple of screens, so you can choose which screen, in which case you're sharing everything on that screen, whichever window you happen to be in. If you've got some confidential information and your audience is maybe a bit broader outside your organization, you might choose one of these windows instead, and that way you know you're only sharing the information that you want to be sharing with the other people at the other end. Okay, so when you do share, you're going to see this coming up at the top here. It's going to get connected. You can cancel the sharing, obviously, by clicking on this stop presenting at any time. You can give control to the other person if you want them to be able to control your screen. And you can also, down the bottom right here, you can click on Let's Talk if you want to convert that and add audio. There's also some other features there which you're unlikely to use typically. If you want to cancel it though, you can either click on the stop presenting at the top there, or you can click on this red box with the white X in here as well. So that's how we have one-on-one conversations within Teams. The other scenario you might want obviously is to have a meeting, and there's a few ways of doing that. One option is an ad hoc meeting. So if you're chatting to someone and you think, hey, we should really get together, a few of us, and nut that out, one way you can do that is click on the calendar tab, click on Meet Now, and it will bring you to the screen here. So you can give it a title if you want to. You can choose some of the devices you might want working, and then click on Join Now. That'll take you into the meeting. And from here, you can then start inviting people. So click on the, or just start searching. It'll find anyone internally. You can also add external people. It'll start calling them straight away. So this person's not logged in, which is why that's then stopped. But the great thing here is you can run up this meeting and just start dialing people in. As they accept, they'll end up joining the meeting. Have your meeting, obviously. If for some reason you don't see that invite user box, you've got this toolbox down here. If you hover your mouse on the main screen, and you can click on that to add some more people to the meeting. You can have a bit of a side chat. Now, normally in a meeting like this, obviously you're talking, but it is quite handy for sharing links and other text that you might need to pass to people. Some other settings you've got here, device settings. So Teams is really good at actually finding the devices that you've got and choosing the right ones, but occasionally you need to give it a hand. So this is where you can do that. If the other person can't hear you, come in here. This is how you go and check that everything's working. The first lot, you can check the different options that you've got. Once you've selected that, you can then go and choose specific setup. So specific headphones or speakers, microphone, and of course camera. Another option here is you can put yourself into full screen mode. You can blur your background if you don't want people to see what's going on behind you. You can turn on the keypad if you've got mobile and landline dialing enabled. You can start recording, so this is handy if someone couldn't join the meeting and you want them to be able to see what the meeting was about later on, and you can turn off your incoming video from here as well. We can share our screen just as we looked at earlier. So same again, you can choose whether you want to share an entire screen or whether you want to share a particular window. You can mute your mic and obviously turn off your video as well. Another option within the calendar view is to go and schedule a meeting. So you can do that by clicking on either new meeting, straight into that, or you can click on the drop down. You've got schedule a meeting, or you've got live event. So I won't cover off live events in this session, but that's essentially if you wanted to run a webinar and share a whole lot of content with a whole lot of people. But typically in here, we might want to have a meeting. So you click on that. I'm sure you're familiar with setting up meetings. But here are the main features. So setting a title, adding in the people who you want to attend the meeting, choosing your start and stop time, does it repeat? You can link it to a channel, and I'll talk about channels a little later on. You can add a location. So if you've got meeting rooms and things set up under normal circumstances, you'd be able to add those meeting rooms or locations. Obviously under COVID-19 lockdown, most of us will just be doing this online. And then you can put in your meeting agenda. And again, you've got all these formatting options here. We click on send, and then the meeting ends up showing up in our calendar. This will also pull through into Outlook as well. And as this time gets closer, you'll see a join button appears on the meeting placeholder here. Alternatively, you can click into it, and once that loads, you'll get a join button here, so you can join just the same way we did before and go on into the meeting that way. One of the great features about that is when you do join, first person to join is going to send a little pop-up on the screen of everyone else who's in that meeting, just to let them know that the meeting has started and get them in the meeting with you. Another thing you can do with Teams is make calls. Obviously, you can make calls from computer to computer, but if you've been set up, then you can in fact make calls to landlines, mobiles, and essentially treat your Teams environment as a cloud PBX. If you have been configured for that, you'll have a number pad here. This is just our demo tenant, so we don't, but from here you can dial any numbers you like, again, based on whatever you're allowed to call. You can get to some files here. I'll show you how that all works under the Teams side of things. There's also other apps that you can add in here or get to from here. So these are other Office 365 apps predominantly. You can click on and add from a range of apps within the app ecosystem. So that leads us to Teams and the final part of the session. So I'll give you a bit of a walkthrough on this now. So Teams is where we really start to pull the collaboration side of things together. There's a whole lot of different resources all pulled under whatever structure you need. So typically we think about structure in terms of the entire organisation. We might then think about departments or teams within the organisation. And we might also think about things like ad hoc teams, which might pull people from different parts of the organisation around a particular activity. So when you look in Teams, you'll have this structure here. You can go and create new teams by clicking on Join or Create a Team down here. You can create from an existing, or you can go and build one from scratch. You can choose whether it's private or public. Private means that people can only add if they're invited to join that team. Public means anyone within the organisation can join. So not outside the organisation, but just inside the organisation. So we're just going to create a public team. Call it our demo team. You can give it a bit of a description, and then click on Create. Look at that, we're clever. Then you can start adding people in. Click on Add. Make sure you click on Add. If you don't do that, then you'll get a bit confused. It'll add individual users as you add them. You can then choose whether they have full rights or whether they are just members of the team. And you can also add in external users as well. So, but again, remember to click on Add. That's one little trick I've seen with people. Now, there's our team that we've just created. Within the team, we can start to create channels. But before we do that, I'm just going to run you through the default channel, which is the general channel. Every time you create a team, it's going to create one called general. Within that, you're going to get these default tabs. So what we've got here is it shows us which team we're in along the top, shows us which channel we're in, and then it defaults, drops you straight into the posts or conversation view. So any conversation that's happened within this team, within this channel, is going to appear here. And that might be directly from here, or it might be from other conversations, from documents and other components of the channel, which I'll show you in just a second. One of the great things here is if you are talking to someone, or if you're leaving a message for someone to come and have a look at, you can use the @mention feature. So this is a comment with for, and you can search. You can either add for the whole team, or you can search for an individual user. If we go and throw that in, you can get rid of the last name, and then we hit Enter, and that puts the comment in there. They can come back and reply if they want to, and you'll get a notification. By adding that person's name, they get an email. They'll get a notification up here initially. There'll be a little @ in their team, on their team's application. If after about an hour they haven't come in and seen that, they'll get an email as well. And in that email will be a link straight into this channel. We also have files, which again are associated with the team channel. So this is we've just created this. It's going to take a second to load, get that all going. But once we have, we can go and create some folders. We can create some files. So we can create a folder. Within that, we can go and create a document if we want to. And then if we want to, we can click, without even leaving the Teams application, we can click straight through. We can create that document. And you get some basic Word features along the top here. So enough to get a basic document together. If you want some more of the Word features, you can open the document directly in Word itself. You just click on these 3 dots up the right-hand corner here. Click on Open in the Desktop app. That's going to launch it in Word for us. And once this loads, I'll show you another really handy wee feature, which is called co-authoring. So I'll give this a little bit of time to load. I just need to come out of here. That's going to reload in Teams, and then we're going to be editing it in 2 places. So here is some content. Now you may have noticed there's a little red cursor up here. That's where I've got the cursor in Teams. Although I'm using the same login for this, you can do this with different users. So we find this really handy when you're wanting to work on a document together. You can both be in the same document, editing at the same time, and you can see where the other person is, what they're doing, and what content they're adding. So if I add some more content to this document, then the person who's also editing it in Word is going to see what I've been typing, even though they're up here working. We find it really handy if you're working on the same piece of content together, just seeing straight away what's going on, or if you may be working on different parts of the document, but you need to be able to see what the other person's doing. So it really speeds up that collaboration process when it comes to getting a document out the door. So let me just close it off. Now it is all using SharePoint in the back end. So in fact, one thing I meant to show you in the Word document is autosave. So because we're using SharePoint in the back end, whenever you're saving documents into SharePoint or Teams, by default, it will autosave that document for you. So that's just worth being aware of. If you go and start editing things, it will save that to the original document that you're editing. So you can turn that off, although my advice would be get in the habit of simply saving a copy if you're wanting to make some changes without affecting the main document. Same within Teams. So anything we change in here is going to get automatically saved. Another great wee feature within Teams is the ability to have a conversation around a document and the ability to @mention people. So once I've finished working on this document, I can say all done, over to you now, and then @mention the person who I'm wanting to message that to. Hit enter. Again, they're going to get that notification up on the Teams tab and also down on their taskbar, so they can see that they've been mentioned. And after an hour or so, they're going to get an email, which will give them a link straight to this document. If we close out of this document now and come back to the conversations or the posts tab, we can see that that comment I've put in there has now been added into this conversation. So that person who's been notified can come in here, they can click straight through that document. They don't have to go through the folder structure and try and find it, and they can go straight in and do whatever editing they need to. They can then reply from here, or they can, if they choose to, they could reply from here. Just keeps everything in one place, the conversation around any changes to the document, all in one place. Anyone from the team who has access to it can come into that channel and see what the latest is, who said what, who's done what, and see where things are up to. Alternatively, they could have come into the Files tab, clicked through here, clicked through the folder, found the file and gone in that way. So having that link is a nice time saver. Another thing to understand is up along the top here what we call breadcrumbs. So as you go down through your folder structure, it will keep a trail of this for you, so you can jump back up through the folder structure by clicking on that breadcrumb trail along the top there. Another really handy feature is the way Teams integrates into Outlook. So there's a couple of ways you can look at that. One is meetings. So you can see all these meetings that we've been creating have in fact appeared in our Outlook calendar as well. You can also go and create a new Teams meeting by simply clicking on that button, or you can change it to a Teams meeting if you click on New Meeting and then click on the Teams meeting button. What that does is it fills in the location for you. It also puts a link in here, particularly if that's for someone externally. They can click on that link and it'll take them into the meeting at the time. Obviously, all the standard stuff to fill out and then send that away. Another great feature is integration with mail. So if I want to send a message, the last file I was working on is going to show up in this wee drop down here, so I can link straight to it. The cloud tells me that it's sending a link to the file that's stored in SharePoint or in the cloud. Alternatively, I can attach it as a copy. I'd recommend if you're sending internally, at least always sending the link, and that way you don't end up with different versions. Everyone's working from that single source of truth and everyone knows what the latest and greatest is. Give it a subject and off it goes. So that brings us to the end of the session on Microsoft Teams. My advice is to get stuck in, start using Teams and have a good look around. You can't break it, so don't be shy, just try things. There are loads of great resources out there, so search for Microsoft Teams training online.
But if you'd like to get some customized training for your organization, please do get in touch, because we'd love to hear from you and help you get the most out of this great platform. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.